Welcome to Tales by Felix, where every story unlocks a new world. Remember to subscribe, like and share. Let's begin. The first time David came home late, I barely noticed. The clock on the mantelpiece ticked past 9, and I was curled up on the couch, a half-read novel splayed across my lap, the TV murmuring softly in the background. Our suburban Chicago home, with its sage-green walls and carefully curated throw pillows, felt like a sanctuary. 10 years of marriage had built this life, stable, predictable, ours. But that night, when David's key finally turned in the lock, there was something different. His tie was loose, his smile strained, and a faint, unfamiliar scent clung to his navy blazer. Not cologne. Something softer, floral, like jasmine. "Sorry, love," he said, brushing past me to the kitchen. "Big project at the firm. You know how it is." I nodded, swallowing the unease that flickered in my chest. "You're working too hard, David," I said, forcing a smile. "You'll burn out." He chuckled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Just the life of a corporate lawyer, Anna. Deadlines don't sleep." That was the first night. Then came the second, the third, the fourth. By the end of the month, late nights were routine. The man who once insisted on family dinners now slipped in after midnight, his footsteps heavy on the hardwood. The jasmine scent lingered, joined by hushed phone calls he took in the garage, his voice low and urgent. I caught fragments. "Not now, I'll call you later. It's complicated." Each word was a pinprick, small but sharp, piercing the fabric of my trust. I tried to dismiss it. Paranoia, I told myself. David was loyal. We'd built a life together. Weekend hikes in Starved Rock, lazy Sundays with coffee and crosswords, dreams of a future with children we hadn't yet found the time for. But the dread was relentless, a cold weight that settled in my stomach, whispering that something was wrong. One evening, as rain drummed against the windows, I confronted him. He was at the dining table, scrolling through his phone, his dinner untouched. "David," I said, my voice steadier than I felt, "what's going on? You're never here anymore." He looked up, his hazel eyes guarded. "What do you mean?" "I'm working, Anna. You know the firm's been insane." "It's not just work," I pressed, my fingers twisting the hem of my sweater. "You're different. Distant. And that smell on your clothes, what is it?" His jaw tightened, just for a moment. "It's nothing. Probably just someone's perfume from the office." "You're overthinking this." "Am I?" My voice cracked, betraying me. "Because it feels like you're hiding something." He stood, crossing the room to pull me into a hug. His arms were familiar, but the warmth felt forced. "You're my everything, Anna. I'd never hurt you. Trust me." I wanted to believe him. God, I wanted to. But as he kissed my forehead and headed upstairs, the jasmine scent lingered, mocking me. That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, the dread no longer a whisper but a scream. The receipt was a small thing, crumpled and forgotten in the pocket of David's gray overcoat. I found it while doing laundry, the mundane task a distraction from the gnawing suspicion that had become my shadow. It was from Little Luxe Boutique, a high-end baby store downtown. $127.89 for a crib mobile and a plush teddy bear. My hands trembled as I smoothed the paper, the date staring back at me, 2 weeks ago. David wasn't home. Another late night. I sat at the kitchen island, the receipt burning a hole in my palm. My mind raced, conjuring excuses. A colleague's baby shower, maybe? A gift for a client? But the dread, that cold companion, whispered darker truths. When David walked in at 11:47 p.m., I was waiting. The receipt lay on the counter, a silent accusation. He froze when he saw it, his briefcase slipping slightly in his grip. "What's this?" I asked, my voice low, controlled. He glanced at the receipt, then at me, his expression a mix of surprise and something else. Guilt? "Oh, that. It's for a coworker's baby shower. You know, Sarah from accounting? She's due next month." "Sarah?" I raised an eyebrow. "You've never mentioned her before." He shrugged, too casual. "It's not a big deal." The team chipped in, and I picked up the gift. "Why are you making this a thing?" "Because you're lying," I said, the words spilling out before I could stop them. You've been lying for weeks. The late nights, the calls, the perfume. David, what's going on? His face hardened, but his eyes flickered with panic. Anna, you're being ridiculous. I'm not lying. I'm just stressed. Work is killing me. Then why does it feel like you're slipping away? My voice broke, and I hated it. Tell me the truth, David. Please. He stepped closer, his hand reaching for mine, but I pulled away. Anna, I love you. There's nothing to tell. Can we just drop this? I wanted to scream, to demand answers, but his pleading eyes stopped me. I nodded, numb, and watched him retreat upstairs. The receipt stayed on the counter, a silent sentinel. That night, I didn't sleep. The pieces of the puzzle were falling into place, and the picture they formed was horrifying. The next week was a blur of sleepless nights and forced smiles. David's late nights continued, each one a fresh wound. I couldn't shake the image of that receipt, the plush teddy bear, the crib mobile. Who were they for? The question consumed me, a fire I couldn't extinguish. On Friday, I couldn't take it anymore. David was in the living room, loosening his tie, when I walked in, the receipt in my hand. My heart pounded, but my voice was steady. We need to talk, I said, holding up the receipt. No more lies, David. Who is she? He froze, his tie dangling like a noose. Anna, we've been over this. No, we haven't. I snapped, my voice rising. You've dodged, you've lied, and I'm done pretending everything's fine. Who is she? Who's getting the crib mobile? The teddy bear? Tell me. His shoulders slumped, and for a moment, I thought he'd break. But then he straightened, his face a mask of defiance. There's no one, Anna. I told you, it's for a coworker. Stop it. I shouted, tears burning my eyes. I know you're lying. I can feel it, David. I deserve the truth. The room was silent except for the ticking of the mantel clock. David's eyes darted to the floor, then back to me. When he spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. Okay. There was someone. A fling. It's over. The words hit like a physical blow, knocking the air from my lungs. A fling. I choked out. How long? A few months, he admitted, his voice hollow. It didn't mean anything. I swear, Anna, it's over. I love you. I staggered back, my hand gripping the couch for support. A few months? You've been living a lie for months. I didn't want to hurt you, he said, stepping toward me. It was a mistake. I'm sorry. Sorry. I laughed, a bitter, broken sound. You think sorry fixes this? Who is she, David? What's her name? He hesitated, and that hesitation was a knife to my heart. It doesn't matter, he said finally. It's done. But it wasn't done. Not for me. As he stood there, pleading, I saw the truth in his eyes, the truth he wouldn't say. There was more. Something bigger. Something that would shatter me. I couldn't function after the confrontation. The house, once a haven, felt like a prison, its walls closing in. David's confession was a half-truth, a bandage on a gaping wound. I needed answers, but I couldn't trust him to give them. That's when I called Sarah. Sarah Mitchell, my best friend since college, was a private investigator before she traded stakeouts for a quieter life as a freelance consultant. Over coffee at a dimly lit diner, I spilled everything, the late nights, the scent, the receipt, the confession. Her green eyes narrowed, her jaw set. He's hiding something, she said, stirring her latte. A fling doesn't explain a baby boutique receipt. Let me dig. Are you sure? I asked, my voice small. What if I don't want to know? She reached across the table, squeezing my hand. You need to know, Anna. You deserve the truth. Give me a week. I nodded, fear and hope warring in my chest. Sarah didn't waste time. 4 days later, she showed up at my door, a manila envelope in her hand. Her expression was grim. You're not going to like this, she warned, handing me the envelope. Inside were photos. David, smiling, his arm around a woman with auburn hair and a radiant, heavily pregnant belly. They were outside a cafe, her hand resting on his, their faces close. My breath caught, my vision blurring. There were more photos, David carrying shopping bags from Little Luxe Boutique, David kissing her cheek in a park. Each image was a dagger, carving away the life I thought I knew. "Who is she?" I whispered, my voice barely audible. "Jessica Harper," Sarah said. 28, works in marketing. They've been seeing each other for at least 6 months. The baby, it's due next month. The world tilted. I sank onto the couch, the photos spilling across my lap. David hadn't just cheated. He'd built another life, a parallel universe where I didn't exist. A baby. His baby. The truth was a physical ache, a suffocating weight that crushed my chest. "I'm so sorry, Anna," Sarah said, sitting beside me. "What do you want to do?" I didn't answer. I couldn't. All I could see was David's smile in those photos, a smile he hadn't given me in months. All I could feel was the betrayal, sharp and relentless, cutting me to the core. The days that followed were a haze of grief and rage. I moved through the house like a ghost, my routines, cooking, cleaning, working, mechanical. Food tasted like ash, and sleep was a distant memory. Every corner of our home held echoes of David's betrayal, the couch where we'd planned our future, the kitchen where we'd danced to old jazz records, the bedroom where he'd lied to my face. I couldn't confront him again. Not yet. The photos were burned into my mind, each one a fresh wound. Jessica's pregnant belly, David's hand on her waist, the crib mobile he'd bought for their child. It wasn't just an affair, it was a family he'd chosen over me. One night, I sat at the kitchen table, a glass of wine untouched before me. The house was silent, David at another late meeting. My phone buzzed, a text from Sarah. "You okay? Need me to come over?" I typed back, my fingers trembling. "I don't know how to do this. How do I live with this?" Her reply was instant. "You don't live with it. You fight. You take back your life. I'm here, whatever you need." Her words sparked something, a flicker of resolve beneath the pain. I wasn't ready to crumble. Not yet. But the weight of the betrayal was crushing, and I didn't know how to carry it. The next morning, I found David in the kitchen, sipping coffee like nothing had changed. The sight of him, so casual, so normal, ignited something in me. "How was your meeting?" I asked, my voice cold. He looked up, startled. "Fine. Just the usual." "Really?" I stepped closer, my heart pounding. "Because I'm starting to wonder what usual means for you, David." His eyes narrowed, but he didn't respond. The silence was deafening, a confession in itself. I turned and walked away, the photos in my mind screaming what he wouldn't say. My perfect life was gone, reduced to ash by the man I'd loved for a decade. But as I stood in the hallway, clutching the banister, I felt a shift. The pain was still there, raw and relentless, but beneath it was something new. Anger. Strength. A determination to reclaim what was mine. The photos Sarah had given me were a wound that wouldn't close. Each night, I spread them across the kitchen table, studying Jessica Harper's face. Her auburn hair cascaded over her shoulders, her smile bright and unguarded in a way mine hadn't been in months. She was younger, 28 to my 35, vibrant, with a glow that wasn't just pregnancy but something deeper, like she held a secret joy I'd lost. I hated her. I pitied her. I wanted to scream at her and beg her to explain why she'd chosen my husband. Sarah dug deeper at my request, her private investigator instincts sharp as ever. Over a tense lunch at a crowded cafe in downtown Chicago, she slid a slim folder across the table. "Jessica Harper," she said, her voice low. "Marketing coordinator at a tech startup. Lives in a loft in Wicker Park. No criminal record, no red flags. She's normal, Anna. Just a woman who fell for the wrong man." I flipped open the folder, my fingers trembling. A driver's license photo stared back, Jessica's green eyes bright, her smile softer than in David's photos. There were bank statements, social media screenshots, even a lease agreement. "She doesn't know about me, does she?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Sarah shook her head. "From what I can tell, no. Her posts are all about her supportive partner and new beginnings. David's been careful. Separate phones, separate lives." The words hit like a punch. Separate lives. David had built a parallel universe, one where I was erased, replaced by this woman and the child she carried. My throat tightened, but I forced myself to keep flipping through the folder. A receipt caught my eye, a coffee shop David frequented, time-stamped during one of his late nights. Jessica's name was on it, alongside his. What am I supposed to do with this? I asked, slamming the folder shut. The cafe's chatter felt suffocating, every laugh a mockery of my pain. Sarah leaned forward, her eyes fierce. You have options, Anna. Confront her. Confront him again. Or, we go bigger. Make him face what he's done. Bigger how? My voice was raw, the weight of betrayal pressing against my ribs. She hesitated, then said, expose him. Publicly. He's a corporate lawyer, Anna. His reputation is everything. If this gets out, it'll hurt. The idea was a spark in the darkness, a dangerous, tempting spark. But I wasn't ready. Not yet. I need to know more about her, I said. I need to understand why. Sarah nodded, but her expression was wary. Be careful, Anna. Hate can consume you. Don't let it. That night, alone in our too-quiet house, I Googled Jessica. Her Instagram was public, a curated gallery of her life. Photos of her laughing at a farmer's market, her hand resting on her swollen belly. A caption read, counting down the days with my favorite person. No mention of David, but the implication was clear. My stomach churned, a mix of anger and pity swirling inside me. She was building a life on lies, just like I had. Did she deserve my rage, or was she another victim of David's deception? The invitation arrived on a Tuesday, its embossed gold lettering a cruel taunt. I found it in the mailbox, nestled between bills and junk flyers, its cream envelope pristine. Join us in celebrating the upcoming arrival of baby Thompson. The words burned into my brain. Thompson. David's last name. Our last name. I stood frozen in the driveway, the autumn wind biting at my cheeks, the envelope trembling in my hands. Inside, the details were meticulous. A baby shower at a chic venue in Lincoln Park, hosted by Jessica's sister. A pastel blue and yellow theme, a registry link for gifts. The date was 2 weeks away. I sank onto the porch steps, the world spinning. This wasn't just an affair. It wasn't just a baby. It was a public declaration of a life David had chosen over ours. When he came home that night, I was waiting in the living room, the invitation on the coffee table like a loaded gun. He stopped short when he saw it, his face paling. What's this, David? I asked, my voice deadly calm. He swallowed, his eyes darting to the envelope. Anna, I can explain. Explain. I stood, my hands shaking with rage. Explain how you're throwing a baby shower with another woman? How you're building a family behind my back? Thompson, David. That's our name. He flinched, his hands raised as if to ward off my words. It's not what you think. I didn't know about the shower. Jessica planned it. Jessica, I spat. You say her name like she's your wife. Like I'm nothing. You're not nothing, he said, his voice breaking. Anna, I messed up. I know that. But I love you. I want to fix this. Fix this. I laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. You've been lying for months. You're having a child with her. How do you fix that? He stepped closer, his eyes pleading. I'll end it. I'll tell her it's over. We can go back to how things were. I stared at him, the man I'd loved for a decade, and saw a stranger. The invitation sat between us, a tangible reminder of his betrayal. You can't undo this, David, I said, my voice steady despite the tears streaming down my face. You've made your choice. He reached for me, but I backed away. Anna, please. Get out, I whispered. He didn't move, so I screamed it. Get out. He left, his shoulders slumped, the door clicking shut behind him. I sank to the floor, the invitation crumpled in my fist, and let the sobs come. The life I'd known was gone, replaced by a nightmare I couldn't wake from. David didn't come home that night. Or the next. His absence was a void, but it gave me space to think. The invitation haunted me, its gold lettering seared into my mind. I couldn't eat, Couldn't sleep. The betrayal was a physical ache, a weight that crushed my chest. But beneath the pain, something else was stirring, a resolve, cold and unyielding. On the third day, he called. I let it go to voicemail, his voice tinny and desperate. Anna, please. I know I screwed up. I'm ending it with Jessica. I want us to work. Call me back. I didn't. Instead, I called Sarah. She came over, her presence a lifeline. We sat on the couch, wine glasses in hand, the invitation between us. He called, I said, my voice flat. Says he'll end it. Sarah snorted. And you believe him? No, I took a sip of wine, the bitterness mirroring my mood. He's panicking because I know. But he's still lying. He didn't tell me about the baby. She nodded, her eyes sharp. So what's the plan? You can't let him control the narrative. I don't know, I admitted. I want to hurt him like he hurt me. But I don't know how. Sarah leaned forward, her voice low and intense. Then we make him feel the weight of what he's done. Not just to you, but to her. To everyone. You've got the truth, Anna. Use it. Her words echoed in my mind long after she left. The truth was a weapon, but wielding it terrified me. What would it cost? My dignity. My sanity. But as I stared at the invitation, its cheerful font mocking my pain, I knew I couldn't stay silent. Not anymore. Despair was a heavy cloak, but I was tired of wearing it. The pain was still there, raw and relentless, but it was no longer paralyzing. In its place grew a cold, hard resolve. I wouldn't be David's victim. I wouldn't let his lies define me. I needed a plan, something audacious, something that would reclaim my power. I spent hours pacing the house, the photos and invitations spread across the dining table like a war map. Sarah's words rang in my ears, use the truth. But how? Confronting Jessica felt too personal, too raw. Confronting David again would only give him another chance to lie. I needed something bigger, something that would shake the foundation of his carefully constructed world. The idea came at 2 a.m., as I sat in the dark, the house silent except for the hum of the refrigerator. David was a corporate lawyer, his reputation his currency. A scandal would ruin him, not just at home, but at work, in the community he'd so carefully cultivated. A public revelation, subtle but undeniable, could unravel everything. I called Sarah the next morning. I want to expose him, I said, my voice steady. Not directly, not yet. But I want people to start asking questions. She didn't hesitate. I know a guy who can help. Anonymous social media posts, untraceable. We hint at a local businessman's double life, let the internet do the rest. Isn't that risky? I asked, my heart pounding. It's a controlled burn, she said. We don't name him. Just enough to make him sweat. You in? I closed my eyes, picturing David's face when the whispers started. I'm in. That night, we drafted the post. It was vague but pointed, prominent Chicago lawyer living a double life. Secret family, secret lies. Who's hiding behind the suit? Sarah's contact posted it on a local gossip forum, and we waited. Within hours, the thread exploded, speculation swirling. Names were thrown out, but David's wasn't, yet. The seed was planted, and I felt a thrill of power, tinged with fear. There was no going back. The plan was in motion, but I felt like I was standing on a cliff's edge. The post was gaining traction, shared across platforms, dissected by strangers. I checked it obsessively, my stomach churning with each new comment. Would it reach David? Would it destroy him? Or would it backfire, leaving me exposed? Then came an unexpected knock at the door. I opened it to find my estranged sister, Emily, standing on the porch. Her dark hair was pulled into a severe bun, her navy blazer crisp, her eyes blazing with intensity one hadn't seen in years. We hadn't spoken in over a year, our last fight over family secrets too raw to revisit. But there she was, uninvited, her presence commanding. I heard, she said, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. About David. About the other woman. Why didn't you tell me? I blinked, caught off guard. How do you even know? Chicago's a small town when it comes to gossip, she said, setting her briefcase on the counter. A friend at the firm mentioned David's been acting strange. Then I saw that post online. It's you, isn't it? I hesitated, then nodded. I didn't name him. But, yeah. She smirked, a glint of approval in her eyes. Smart. Subtle. But you're playing with fire, Anna. You need backup. Backup? I frowned. What are you talking about? Emily opened her briefcase, pulling out a legal pad. I'm a lawyer, Anna. A damn good one. If you're going to take David down, you need to do it right. Divorce papers, financial settlements, maybe even a restraining order if he gets desperate. Let's make him regret this. Her words were a lifeline, pulling me from the edge. I'd forgotten how fierce Emily could be, how her sharp mind and sharper tongue could cut through any defense. Why are you doing this? I asked, my voice soft. We haven't talked in forever. She looked at me, her expression softening for a moment. Because you're my sister. And no one hurts my family and gets away with it. For the first time in weeks, I felt a spark of hope. With Emily by my side, the plan wasn't just audacious, it was possible. David's world was about to crack, and I was ready to watch it shatter. The anonymous post was a spark in a tinderbox. By morning, it had spread across Chicago's online gossip forums, X, and even local Facebook groups. Comments piled up, each one a needle pricking David's carefully curated facade. Sounds like someone at Thompson and Reed. Bet it's that lawyer who's always at those charity galas. No one had named him outright, but the whispers were circling, closing in like vultures. I sat at my kitchen table, my laptop glowing, my heart a mix of dread and exhilaration. Emily, perched across from me with a coffee mug, scrolled through the thread with a predator's focus. This is good, she said, her voice clipped, professional. Vague enough to avoid a libel suit, pointed enough to make him sweat. You're sure you want to keep pushing? I nodded, though my stomach churned. He needs to feel what I felt. Betrayed. Exposed. Emily's lips curved into a faint smile, but her eyes were steel. Then we upped the ante. I've got a contact at a local blog, small, but influential. They love a scandal. We leak a few more details, nothing traceable. Maybe a hint about the baby shower. The idea sent a shiver down my spine. It was one thing to plant a seed, another to water it with specifics. Won't that point straight to me? I asked, my fingers twisting the hem of my sweater. Not if we're careful, Emily said, scribbling notes on her legal pad. We use a burner account, route it through a VPN. My contact knows how to keep sources anonymous. Trust me, Anna. I've done this before. I stared at her, the sister I'd barely spoken to in a year, now my fiercest ally. Why are you so good at this? I asked, half joking. She didn't laugh. Because I've seen what men like David do to women like you. They think they can lie, cheat, and walk away clean. Not this time. That afternoon, we crafted the next post. It was subtle but damning. Local lawyer's secret family planning a lavish baby shower. Does his wife know? Emily's contact posted it on Chicago Uncovered, a blog known for exposing the city's elite. Within hours, the comments section was a wildfire. Names were tossed around, and David Thompson, senior partner at Thompson and Reed, started appearing. My pulse raced as I read the speculation, each comment a brick in the wall closing him in. That night, I couldn't sleep. The house felt too big, too empty without David's presence, but I didn't miss him. I missed the man I thought he was. As I lay in bed, my phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. It's working. People are talking. You okay? I typed back, not okay, but I'm ready. The truth was out there, a beast I'd unleashed. There was no turning back. The blog post was a match dropped in gasoline. By the next morning, local news outlets had picked up the story, albeit cautiously. Unconfirmed reports of Chicago lawyers' double life. One headline read. Another called it, a scandal in the Windy City's legal elite. No names yet, but the details were too specific to ignore. A prominent attorney, a secret family, a baby on the way. David's firm was mentioned in passing, and I could imagine the whispers in their sleek downtown office. David came home that evening, his face a mask of fury and fear. He stormed into the living room, his tie askew, his briefcase slamming onto the coffee table. "What the hell, Anna?" he shouted, holding up his phone, the blog post glaring from the screen. "Did you do this?" I stood, my heart pounding but my voice steady. "Did I do what, David? Tell the world you're a liar? A cheat? A father-to-be with another woman?" His eyes widened, then narrowed. "You're destroying me. My career, my reputation. Do you have any idea what this could do? Do you have any idea what you've done to me?" I shot back, stepping closer. "You built a whole life behind my back. A baby, David. A baby shower with our last name. And you have the nerve to come in here and play the victim." He ran a hand through his hair, pacing like a caged animal. "I told you I'd end it. I told you I'd choose you. Why can't you let this go? Let it go." I laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. "You don't get to decide when I let this go. You made your choices, and now you're facing the consequences." He stopped, his face draining of color. "Anna, please. The firm's watching. If this gets out of hand, I could lose everything." "Good," I said, my voice cold. "Maybe you should have thought of that before you started a second family." He stared at me, his mouth opening and closing, but no words came. For the first time, I saw him as he truly was, not the charming husband I'd loved, but a man cornered by his own lies. He grabbed his briefcase and left, the door slamming behind him. I sank onto the couch, trembling, but not with fear. With power. The next day, the story broke wide open. A local TV station ran a segment, still nameless but dripping with innuendo. A Chicago lawyer's secret life has the city buzzing. Sources say a prominent attorney has been leading a double life, complete with a pregnant mistress and a public baby shower. David's name wasn't mentioned, but the details were a noose tightening around his neck. Social media was relentless, with ex-users tagging Thompson and Reed, demanding answers. David called me that afternoon, his voice frantic. "Anna, we need to talk. In person. Please." I agreed, but not at home. We met at a quiet diner in Logan Square, the kind of place where no one would recognize a corporate lawyer. He looked haggard, his eyes bloodshot, his suit rumpled. I sat across from him, my coffee untouched, my face a mask. "You've gone too far," he said, his voice low, urgent. "The firm's getting calls. Clients are asking questions. Anna, you have to stop this." "Stop what?" I asked, leaning back. "The truth. Because that's what this is, David. The truth you tried to bury." He leaned forward, his hands clenched. "I made a mistake, okay? I'm human. But this public shaming, it's not just hurting me. It's hurting Jessica, the baby." "Don't," I snapped, my voice cutting through his. "Don't you dare use that baby as a shield. You did this. You chose this." He flinched, his eyes pleading. "I'm begging you, Anna. Call it off. Tell your sister, whoever's behind this, to stop. I'll do anything." I studied him, the man I'd vowed to spend my life with, now reduced to a desperate liar. "Anything?" I asked, my voice soft but sharp. "Then tell me everything. No more lies. Who's Jessica to you? How long? Why?" He hesitated, his jaw tightening. Then, like a dam breaking, he spoke. "It started a year ago. She was a client's sister. We met at a networking event. It was a fling at first. But then she got pregnant, and I didn't know how to stop it. I didn't want to hurt you." "You didn't want to hurt me?" I repeated, my voice trembling with rage. "You lied to me every day. You let me believe we had a future while you were planning one with her. How is that not hurting me?" "I'm sorry," he whispered, his eyes on the table. "I love you, Anna. I always have." The words were hollow, a ghost of the promises we'd made. I stood, my chair scraping against the floor. "You don't get to say that anymore. You've lost that right." As I walked out, the diner's fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, I felt a strange calm. The showdown wasn't over, but I'd drawn first blood. The scandal reached a boiling point 2 days later. Jessica, overwhelmed by the mounting attention, broke her silence. A friend of hers, unaware of the full context, posted on X, "Jessica Harper deserves better than this smear campaign. David Thompson is the father of her baby, and he's been nothing but supportive. Leave them alone." The post went viral, names now attached to the faceless scandal. David's carefully constructed world was crumbling, and I watched it fall from my living room, my laptop open, my heart racing. The news spread like wildfire. Colleagues, friends, even distant relatives texted me, their messages a mix of shock and pity. "Is this true?" "I'm so sorry, Anna. How could he?" I didn't respond. The truth was out, raw and ugly, and I didn't need to explain it. David's lies had done that for me. Sarah came over that night, her face grim but triumphant. "It's done," she said, pouring us both wine. "Jessica's friend just handed you the smoking gun. Everyone knows now." I nodded, but the victory felt hollow. "She didn't know about me, did she?" I asked, staring at the wine in my glass. Sarah shook her head. "From what I can tell, no. David played her too. She thought she was his future." The realization hit harder than I expected. Jessica wasn't the villain I'd imagined. She was another woman caught in David's web. I hated her still, but the pity was stronger now, a heavy weight in my chest. "What happens to her now?" I asked. Sarah shrugged. "She's got her own fight. The baby, the public backlash. But that's not your burden, Anna. Focus on you." I tried to, but the image of Jessica, pregnant, betrayed, alone, lingered. The truth was out, but it wasn't just David's life it had upended. It was hers, too. And mine. Emily moved like a general preparing for war. The morning after Jessica's friend's post, she arrived at my house with a draft of a legal letter, its language sharp and uncompromising. "Divorce papers," she said, sliding the document across the kitchen island. "We're filing for irreconcilable differences, citing infidelity. I've included a demand for a full financial settlement, half the assets, alimony, the works." He's not walking away clean. I skimmed the letter, the legal jargon blurring before my eyes. "Will this hold up?" I asked, my voice small. Emily's smile was cold. "Oh, it'll hold up. David's firm is already circling the wagons. They'll pressure him to settle quietly to avoid more bad press. And if he fights, we've got the photos, the receipts, Jessica's own admission. He's screwed." I nodded, the weight of the decision settling over me. This wasn't just about ending the marriage, it was about reclaiming my dignity, my future. "Do it," I said. Emily faxed the letter to David's office that afternoon, ensuring it landed on his desk in front of his colleagues. I imagined his face as he read it, the panic as his world collapsed further. Part of me wanted to see it, to witness his unraveling. But another part, the part that still remembered loving him, ached at the thought. That evening, David called. I let it go to voicemail, his voice shaking. "Anna, I got the letter. Can we talk? Please, I don't want this to get uglier than it already is." I didn't call back. The letter was my answer, my line in the sand. Emily was right. David had underestimated me, but he wouldn't again. The fight was far from over, but for the first time, I felt like I was winning. David's world was unraveling, and the pressure finally broke him. A week after Emily's legal letter landed on his desk, Thompson and Reed issued a statement on their website, a carefully worded acknowledgement of personal matters affecting one of their senior partners. Hours later, David posted a public apology on X, his words dripping with corporate polish but lacking soul. "I deeply regret the pain caused by my personal actions. I am committed to making amends and focusing on my family and professional responsibilities." No mention of me, no mention of Jessica, no mention of the baby. It was a coward's apology, designed to salvage his career, not his conscience. I read it on my phone, sitting in the dim glow of my living room, the Chicago skyline glittering through the window. Emily was there, her laptop open, her eyes scanning the responses. "Pathetic," she muttered, scrolling through the comments. "Half these people are calling him out for dodging accountability. Look at this. Nice try, Thompson. Name the family you're apologizing to." I didn't laugh. The apology was a victory, but it felt hollow. "He thinks this fixes it," I said, my voice flat. "Like a few words will erase what he did." Emily closed her laptop, her expression softening. It doesn't fix it, Anna. But it's proof he's scared. His firm's in damage control, his clients are jittery. You've got him on the ropes. I nodded, but my chest ached. The man I'd loved for 10 years was reduced to a PR statement, a shadow of the David I thought I knew. I wanted to feel triumphant, but all I felt was tired. What now? I asked, my voice small. Now we keep pushing, Emily said, her tone firm. The divorce papers are filed, the settlement's in motion. He'll try to negotiate, but we hold the line. You're not just walking away, Anna, you're walking away with what's yours. That night, I stood on the balcony, the autumn wind sharp against my skin. The city buzzed below, indifferent to my pain. David's apology was a bandage on a wound too deep to heal with words. But Emily was right. I had the upper hand. For the first time in months, I felt a flicker of control, a spark of something stronger than despair. David moved out the following week. His absence was a void, but not the kind I'd feared. The house, once suffocating with his lies, felt lighter, like it could breathe again. I started small, rearranging furniture, painting the guest room a soft lavender, reclaiming the space as mine. Sarah came over with a bottle of wine and a playlist of 90s pop, insisting we celebrate. To new beginnings, she toasted, raising her glass. I clinked mine against hers, but my smile was tentative. It doesn't feel like a beginning, I admitted. It feels like surviving. That's enough for now, Sarah said, her green eyes warm. You're stronger than you know, Anna. You've already survived the worst. Her words stayed with me. I started rediscovering old passions, painting, which I'd abandoned after college, yoga classes at the community center, dinners with friends who'd stood by me through the storm. The pain was still there, a dull ache that flared at unexpected moments, a song on the radio, a couple holding hands in the park, but it no longer defined me. I was more than David's betrayal, more than the wife he'd discarded. One afternoon, I found myself at a bookstore, browsing the self-help section. A title caught my eye, Rebuilding After Betrayal. I bought it, not because I believed in quick fixes, but because I wanted to understand how to carry the scars without letting them weigh me down. That night, I sat on the couch, the book open, and read a line that hit like a revelation. Your story doesn't end with the pain. It begins with what you do next. What I did next was live. I signed up for a pottery class, laughed with Sarah over bad rom-coms, and let myself cry when the loneliness crept in. The future was uncertain, but it was mine to shape. Jessica gave birth a month later. The news came through a mutual acquaintance, a casual mention that felt like a punch. Did you hear? David's girlfriend had a boy. I was at a coffee shop, the chatter around me fading to a dull roar. A boy. David's son. The reality was a fresh wound, sharp and stinging, but it wasn't the same gut-wrenching agony I'd felt before. It was a detached sadness, not just for me, but for Jessica and the child caught in the wreckage of David's lies. I called Sarah that evening, needing to process. She had the baby, I said, my voice steady but soft. A boy. Sarah was quiet for a moment. How do you feel? I don't know, I admitted, curling up on the couch. Angry, still. But I feel sorry for her. For the kid. They didn't ask for this. You're a better person than I am, Sarah said, her tone dry. I'd want to burn his world down. I did, I said, a small laugh escaping. And it felt good for a while. But now, I just want to move on. Then do, she said. You've already taken back your life. Don't let this pull you back. I hung up, staring at the lavender walls of my new guest room. The baby's existence was a fact, not a weapon. Jessica's life, her child's life, wasn't my burden. But the thought of that boy, David's son, stayed with me, a quiet ache for a future I'd once imagined for myself. 3 months after the birth, an email landed in my inbox, the subject line simple, from Jessica Harper. My heart stopped. I stared at the screen, my finger hovering over the delete button. Why was she contacting me? What could she possibly say? Curiosity, and maybe a need for closure, won out. I opened it. Dear Anna, I don't know if you'll read this, but I have to try. I had no idea about you when I met David. He told me he was separated, that his marriage was over. I believed him. I was wrong, and I'm so sorry for the pain I've caused. I saw your strength these past months, the way you've carried yourself, the way you've fought. I admire that. If you're ever willing, I'd like to talk. Not to excuse what happened, but to understand. To move forward. Jessica. I read it 3 times, each word a mix of salt and salve on my wounds. She didn't know. David had lied to her, too. The anger I'd nursed for months wavered, replaced by a complicated mix of pity and respect. I didn't reply right away. I wasn't sure I could. I showed the email to Emily over lunch. She raised an eyebrow, her fork pausing mid-air. "She's got nerve," she said. "What do you want to do?" "I don't know," I said, tracing the rim of my glass. "Part of me wants to hate her forever. But she's not the enemy. David is." Emily nodded, her expression thoughtful. "You don't owe her anything. But if talking helps you close this chapter, maybe it's worth a shot." A week later, I replied. Short, cautious, "I'm not ready to forgive, but I'm willing to talk. Coffee next week." She agreed, and we met at a small cafe in Wicker Park, neutral ground. She was there when I arrived, her auburn hair pulled back, her face pale but composed. No pregnant glow now, just a tired young woman with a story as broken as mine. "I'm so sorry," she said as I sat down, her voice trembling. "I didn't know you existed until the news broke. I thought he loved me." I swallowed hard, the sincerity in her eyes disarming. "He lied to both of us," I said. "But you didn't deserve the fallout. Neither did your son." Her eyes filled with tears. "His name's Ethan. He's perfect. But I look at him sometimes and see David, and it hurts." I nodded, the ache in my chest mirroring hers. "I wanted kids with him," I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. "That was our plan. Until he chose a different one." We sat in silence for a moment, 2 women bound by the same betrayal. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was a start. A fragile thread of understanding, woven from shared pain. The divorce was finalized 6 months later. The settlement was fair, half the assets, a modest alimony, the house in my name. David didn't fight it, his reputation too battered to risk a drawn-out battle. He moved to a condo downtown, his life a shadow of the one he'd built with me. I heard through mutual friends that he saw Ethan occasionally, but Jessica kept him at arm's length, her trust as shattered as mine. I stood in my backyard one spring evening, the air warm with the promise of renewal. The lavender guest room was now my art studio, filled with half-finished canvases and the scent of oil paint. Sarah and Emily were coming over later for dinner, a new tradition we'd started. The scars of David's betrayal were still there, faint lines on my heart, but they no longer defined me. Jessica and I stayed in touch, our conversations tentative but growing easier. We weren't friends, not exactly, but we were something else, survivors of the same storm, navigating the aftermath together. She sent me a photo of Ethan once, his tiny face a mix of her features and David's. I didn't cry. I smiled, wishing him a life free of his father's mistakes. As I watched the sunset, the sky streaked with pink and gold, I felt a quiet peace. The future was unwritten, a blank canvas waiting for my brush. I didn't know what it held, new love, new dreams, new adventures, but for the first time in a long time, it felt like mine. I'd lost a husband, a life, a dream, but I'd found something better, myself. The end.